Aloha,
Aloha.
Bliss and Skyhorse here. Look at this holographic.
I know, right?
What?
Spirits. We've got some extra spirits in the house today. It's great.
Wow, how cool is that? How perfect is that for this connection? Yay, we're back. Love hanging out with this cosmic being.
Likewise.
Nice to see you.
You too.
We're dropping in for a love stream because we love streaming, and we're just going to hang out and see what comes out together today. So Skyhorse and we have been, we have to plug the computer in. Can you grab that cable from around the corner? Thank you. Technology. We have been just dropping in on really cool stuff and getting lots of great messages from people loving these love streams together. And so we're just going to see where this all goes today. Where should we start?
Gosh. Giving gratitude to Mother Earth, for providing us food and abundance and, all the goodness, the ocean and the rivers and streams. That's good.
That's what I was hearing. This is so
guys.
Cute because they're already leaning over your
I
shoulder.
know, they want to get in more. They want to get in on the action.
Yeah, I heard Pachamama. That's the first thing I heard is Let's start with Pachamama. So one thing I would like to say is that in the description box, I put the messages for a despacho that we're doing tonight with an incredible Kiro elder from Peru. And he is being supported by a man named Ronnie, who is a beautiful guide in Peru and has been helping the Kiro people and working with them for many years. So if you want to join our despacho tonight, which is an amazing blessing ceremony of balance and alignment with nature, within ourselves, within all of our polarities, and so on, we're doing the despacho tonight at 6 p.m. If anyone wants to join, all the notes are in the description box, and you can go ahead and register. All of the proceeds go to our incredible Kiro families to support them. Pablo is a beautiful man. He has 5 children. He lives in the mountains with all of his Kiro family, and they live in balance and harmony with our favorite being called nature. And so he's also offering healings over the next few days, and also all the notes are in the description box for anyone who wants to experience one of his healings. I got to meet Pablo today and do a healing session with him, and I have to say I was in tears for pretty much the whole session, because being in the presence of these incredibly humble human beings who are living in balance and harmony with nature was enough to really open my heart so widely and just really bring me to that space of connection within myself on a deeper level and so on. So everything is in the description box if you want to join us tonight at 6 p.m. or do the healing sessions in the next 2 days. There's the information for how to sign up for that. And so,
And I have a group of friends that are with the Kogi tribe in Colombia. And the mission there is to really kind of harness all the tribes together, different parts of the Amazon, to get everyone unified, and that's just that little bit, because we know, right, if the Amazon is lost to, farming and just the insanity that's going on, the mining to just rape it of all natural resources, we're going to lose so much of our incredible wisdom and plant allies that can pretty much heal anything on the planet, and all the keepers of that wisdom. So that's going on right now. So lots of support to all the tribes unifying and all the people unifying behind them to save the rainforest and save the planet and make nature thrive, because we will all thrive then.
That's right. Our alignment with nature allows us to thrive, and these are the true stewards of the planet. They're the true keepers of the stargates. They're the true stewards of the planet. And what I've been sharing is that it is time for the Western world to wake up and come back into alignment with the wisdom teachings of these stewards who so generously offer them, and who are kind of a little bit caught between worlds, where they live in balance and harmony with nature, but they still live in these worlds that require them to have some money, some resources. And so a lot of people are really stepping up right now and realizing what the indigenous have been doing for us on the planet, which is holding balance in place from the perspective of humans. And the Kogi, who we could talk about a little bit more, are elders from Colombia who remained very withdrawn in the mountains of Colombia and started coming out maybe 10 or 15 years ago for the first time to say to us, who they call the younger brother, that we were hanging by a thread because we were throwing the balance out in nature so greatly that we had to transform how we're living on the planet. And so there's a lot of transformation, and also the Kiro elders. I thought it was incredible to see that they were at the Giza Pyramid in Egypt recently, just a few days ago, for a huge gathering and event that's happening there. So we can dive in and talk about the gatekeepers and all those things. And I really feel also your journeys in, the Amazon and so on. I'd love to go into all that.
Yeah, and so in 2014 when I was on an epic quest of sorts with Matheus De Stefano, if you've heard of him on Gaia TV. So we did that huge thing in all of Spain, Portugal, and Italy. And as we finished the whole Roma Amor tour, it was like the very last thing was these, and it was so mystical. These 3 shamans literally came out of fog and appeared as we closed our final ceremony after the Pope's secretaries came and said he was with us the whole time in Rome. And then these shamans, we had a translator, but they were basically they were there on a mission to kind of undo a lot of what the Jesuits had done, and we were there doing what the Roman Catholicism had done through conquistadors and all that, traveling to South America, Central America. So all these magical alignments of these shamans having, and literally without telephones, right? They know the call because they're tapped into nature and the spirits to come out of the forest. And this was the first time they came out of the forest. So it's happening where Mother Earth is saying, hey, we need to wake these people up and show them the bigger picture of what's happening. So that's what's happening.
I didn't know Stefano was on that too. You were.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's how the Pope got the All-Sphere, was from Matheus. So yeah, Pope Francis has an All-Sphere.
Oh my gosh. If this live stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting.
And, right, so I had that rose quartz from when we did the full moon, right, the blood moon, Phoenix at Lucidity. So I had that rose quartz. So I traded, so I showed one of the head shaman, I showed him one of the All-Spheres that I had brought. And he looks at it and his eyes light up. And then he takes it and he takes his harpy eagle feather, which is 3 feet long, and then puts it into the All-Sphere and then starts doing things to my heart with the energy of it, gives it back to me, and then I, gave him the rose quartz and then explained, take this to your sacred tree, and plant it there, and this energy has been doing these other things. So we're just, as we all wake up and start to align with the bigger call, which is ultimately Mother Nature, and how we can, help to recalibrate people back to tapping into nature, all the magic shows up, and so it's spreading. So the more we do it, the more powerful it becomes, the better it is for everybody.
Oh my!
And that includes all the animals and trees. I'm not just talking everybody like people. It's way bigger.
It's way bigger.
Yeah.
You took the rose quartz from the blood. Oh my gosh, there's so many grid pieces here. Should we talk about grid work a little bit?
Sure.
A lot of people are super interested in grid work, and because it's been a natural part of our life, I kind of take it for granted. But I constantly get messages from people asking me about grid work, what is grid work, and so on. So do you want to jump into that?
Yeah. I mean, for me, there's just little magical things that are hey, you have to go over here, right? It's whether it's a dream and you see a vision, or, I've met, when I did this Roma Amor with Matheus, it was my friend introduced me to this amazing Chinese woman named Jewel, of course, right? And she's like, oh my God, you have to come to this, right? And so it was just I basically just needed my passport. It's I didn't have money barely, and I was just like, okay, I'm supposed to go for a month, longer than a month, and it all was like perfectly divine aligned, and we do energetic things at different places to kind of rewire things that have happened at those locations. So like what we were doing with Spain, Portugal, and Italy was all the Roman Catholic churches, basilicas, cathedrals, right? Which a lot of these places are the locations where, they went out to like sent out the conquistadors to like take over the Mayans or the Incans. So it's kind of like winding back in the things that had happened there, recalibrating through. I mean, we were doing sound healing, and it's channeling the information to, it's just recalibrating things to get things back into harmonic flow. And like the Kogi, they're doing and lots of us and right, they are so tapped into Mother Nature that it's like they know exactly where these energetic ley lines are on the planet that have been compromised by energies, and it's important to go back to those things to get basically the Earth's right harmonic field through the grids recalibrated so that they're functioning at Earth's harmonic thing to affect us and tap us into, so that we're all aligned and balanced back to nature instead of spinning out, right, in the masculine craziness that we have.
That's such a great description. Look at this, what we have going on here. That's
I got some coming in the side too. It's the holy light. What can we, It's okay. It's
very
great,
holographic. I love it. If it's love stream, it's the unicorns. They're like, yeah. If this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. So we are at the home of the Living Library, and I have been stewarding these ley lines guided by Princess Diana. So I've been sharing about that recently on a lot of the love streams, and it's like for the Western mind to understand these concepts of things they can't see with their eyes. It's really helpful to provide metaphors for people to understand what grids and ley lines are. So I always go back to the Chinese meridians on the body and how they, if you see an acupuncturist chart, it shows all these little ley lines that run through the human body. And then where those ley lines meet is where the acupuncture needles go in, because those are energy centers or energy vortexes. And so that's what grid workers do. They work as acupuncture needles on the planet. And so if people are trying to get, a sense of what they can't see with their eyes, I always bring in the concept of migratory animals. So how do migratory animals know how to migrate? How do they know where to go? Because they're following electromagnetic ley lines. These are currents in the planet, and their sonar, their first eye is wide open, and so is their heart, because animals live in a unity consciousness. They're not in an ego consciousness. The ego takes over the frontal lobe. And so that's why a lot of herd animals, their eyes are on the side of their head, because they don't have the ego consciousness. So they're not looking forward. They're connected into a more unified field, and it's more of a monadic consciousness. But animals, the monarch butterflies, the gray whales, all of the animals are tapping into these ley lines. And so what begins opening up for humans as they awaken, it is natural to do grid work as someone awakens, because we start reconnecting to being one with the planet. We start to submit our ego to something greater. And even though it doesn't make sense, like you say, you didn't have money and you were invited on this trip and you're like, I'm supposed to go. Same with me. I was supposed to complete my entire life, put it to rest, and start traveling the planet praying with water. And try to explain that to all your friends, family, and relatives when people are working 9 to 5 in a Gregorian calendar that has no alignment with the cosmology whatsoever, that completely throws the consciousness out of relationship with our relationship with the stars. We are on the planet doing this Earth walk, and when we lose our connection to the star map simultaneously, we are no longer walking what the Lakota call the Good Red Road. So as our consciousness wakes up, we begin to receive these divine messages that start to align us so that our feet are on the earth, our connection is to the stars. And that's what it is to embody our divinity in these physical realms, and to have a true experience of what it really is to come to this incredible garden and learn about our relationship with the elementals and activate our higher gifts. And that brings me to your incredible dream that you had the other night.
Well, we'll get to it. We'll get to that in a second.
But we can still put it in there.
Yeah. So right. So grid work. Well, if you want to get into grid work, start with your body. The body's the first step of the grid work, as you just explained, right? It's like we have all these meridian lines, and it's how energy flows through the body. So if we're doing so if you watch previous videos or go to my Instagram, the all sphere, then right, you'll see the all sphere, and that geometry, right, is your grid, and then we have all these different parts of ourselves that are the connecting points of the grand grid of your physical container. So get your self-awareness going and get your grid activated. That way, right, you'll be able to, I guess, observe the other grid that's going on the bigger picture. And for me, sometimes, right, there's grids where it's like it's a building or it's a place, and it's just like you're called to that, or it could be a huge redwood tree where it activates you, which I've had happen to me, where it's full on cry for like 2 hours and see rainbow auras flying through the redwoods and amazing stuff like that. Yeah, right. Becoming a conscientious observer to reality. And it doesn't always have to be a building, right? So the trees, and I'm at a place where, right, I can see plants and certain things that are growing are basically setting, right, they're on a specific energy field, which is why they're growing the way that they grow. And, you can see trees where they're spiraling, right? There's different things where it's showing these, like, powerful vortex spots. Like if you ever get to Bryce Canyon and out there, wherever that is, Utah or Arizona, one of those. But you'll see all these spiraling. You'll see all these spiraling trees where it's like really a powerful vortex, right? Same with Sedona, Shasta. It's all over the place, and all you really have to do is just be observant of nature and look for patterns and things that are revealing itself to us. So. You want me to go into the thing now, or if you have more?
Well, I just felt to jump in here for a moment because you're talking about like connecting into the meridians of our body. One of the things is that plant medicines, or I don't even think of them as plant medicines. I think of them as allies. But we're on this living library planet, this garden that is filled with all of these different consciousnesses. And so it's like if you went into a library and you had access to all these cosmic books, that's exactly what this planet is like. And one of the questions I had is how does one get in touch with the grids of their body? And, plant medicines is definitely one of those things. This is why the indigenous have stayed connected to the spirits of the plants, because the plants open up all of these grids, all of this the holographic mechanics of our body to be able to sense and feel and turn all of these other senses on in our forms that, the whole thing of science saying we have 5 senses. And the things in the fictional fiction that people were taught in school about ourselves to go, no, we don't. How many children came into the planet like fully turned on? I came in fully turned on. My first eye was wide open. I was seeing all kinds of things as a child. And then you go to school and you find out we have a sense of smell, a sense of taste, a sense of touch that we can see and we can hear. And that's it. So that's just one piece about like how do we turn these senses on. And also at the same time as you were talking, what I was really seeing is how also the world, the fictional fiction of the Western world that people have been living in, how it takes the consciousness farther and farther away from nature, because this whole thing about technology and staring at little phones and what it does to the first eye and how it connects into the ego and how it hyper focuses our attention to this little thing right here when we're like one with nature, we're surrounded by nature. And so, how people can end up being very disharmonic through over focus with technology. And how do we come back into the harmonic? We talked about this last time, but I feel like we should talk about it again, because a lot of people don't even know what it means to be connected into the grids of our body.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one is, study ancient Chinese wisdom, right? And learn the energy grids and of the meridian lines of your body and tap into the chi, right? And just doing different poses where, like, one for me is just in simple prayer, or even opening it up like this. And it's it's a meditation where I go like finger by finger to like connect the like tips of my fingers. So I'm basically just breathing, and I connect to the pulsation and the energy that's happening between the pinkies, the next finger, and go through them, right? And that's one way to start like getting your consciousness focalized on what you feel like in the the body. Instead of being in the mind, you're actually physically feeling. I do the same with put the toes together, feel the toes, feel the heel, feel the energy of the chi in like the soul, right? So that's one way. Doing qi gong and starting to harness energy and really actually feel and visualize the feelings of what energy feels like. You don't have to see it. Eventually you'll actually see it, because you're going to slow down your senses, because we're not in our head, right? We're not thinking forward or in the past. We're getting more sensual and more present, and then we can start to actually perceive and see it, because it's here. We just have to
slow it down. I was also thinking when you were talking, if this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. There's a little share button down there you can share right now while it's going on. I can't remember which corner it's in, but so you can share it while we're live. So when you were sharing, it's like, what if we were sharing this with children when they were coming in? I don't even like to use the word school. What if parents were engaged with their children doing exactly this, learning to feel the energy between the fingers and so on? And, children come into this very active world. Does it necessarily mean that children are that active, or are children out picturing the Nike Just Do It energy that is coming through the entire world? Because of course children and animals are just a reflection of the homes and the worlds and the families and the lives they come into. And you see so many young children in countries like Thailand where they learn to meditate from the time that they're young.
Yeah.
And so this is another piece that parents can start learning and doing with their children, because their children are going to be super intuitive and touch to this. And I feel like that's a big shift as well, where there's a disconnect in the family. Family structures are hierarchical, and that as we begin to recognize whether we're an adult or we're a child or have children, that this is something that can be shared and explored by all of us together. And in doing that, it takes out the hierarchical structure of the family, which is completely in opposition to nature itself, because nature does not have a hierarchy, unbeknownst to all of the wildlife animal shows that maintain that it does. Nature doesn't have a hierarchy. Nature works in a very symbiotic way. And I think dispelling a lot of these mistruths that have been made about nature as well, that have been bred into people's minds, is a huge part as well. And that nature is like survival of the fittest and all those kinds of things. And it's like, no, nature is very complementary.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, right, the indigenous, or the tribes of the Amazon or North America, pretty much everywhere around the planet, right, have been pretty much genocided off the planet, because they're considered by, governments and these absolute, the real insanos, that they're subhuman, right, that they're these primate people, right, which is absolutely the farthest from the truth. These people are the most tapped in, connected, because they don't have to consume the entire planet, right? That's the magic, is that they know how to be sustainable and live in harmony.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, but back to the children, right? It's the education isn't teaching people how to be like, right? Learn how to be like sustainable, how to actually deal with money properly, how to be self-aware and know how to meditate, and like express and feel feelings, right? So all these things are, a system that's perpetually, like, it takes us further away from nature, like you were saying. And so now it's like there's a lot of unschooling happening because this, everything in the last couple of years has really shown how it's very skewed out in a certain direction. So this competition mentality isn't the way forward. It's how can we cooperate? How can we learn how to harness and be present with ourselves in order to best express and be present with others, right?
I love this man so much. He's so sweet.
So that's,
it's so beautiful.
That's what we're doing.
It's so beautiful, and it's so beautiful to sit in that harmony inside of ourselves. Part of the dispatio that I was sharing about in the healing sessions that our Kiro elder Pablo is offering are sessions that help bring people back into that alignment. And some people might wonder, if you're interested, it's all in the description box if you want to join us in the dispatio tonight at 6 p.m. And we have to keep our eye on the time somehow. Okay. So, the coming into that harmony, and is like, people might wonder, how could a healer or a shaman bring us back into balance or harmony? It's when we sit in the presence of someone who already has that connection through their consciousness with the balance of the field itself, that spreads out to us. And so we receive that in these dispachios and these prayers and these healing sessions, because this is what a lot of these people have spent their entire lives doing, is being in that balance with nature itself. And it's very simplistic to come into that balance. And then this takes us into the mystical. The thing about being in alignment and balance with nature itself, and we'll talk about your dream, but what's coming to mind is that, I've spoken many times before about my dear friend Ralph Ring, who was working with a group that was recreating Nikola Tesla's technology back in the 50s and 60s. And in recreating that technology, they created successful levitation crafts. And my friend Ben Hallett and his brother decoded this whole book called The Dimensions of Mystery. The Dimensions of Mystery was written by a man named Otis T. Carr, and Otis was Nikola's apprentice. And so at a certain time, when they were shut down for creating these levitating craft, Otis wrote this book called Dimensions of Mystery, and he coded all the construction of the craft in the Dimensions of Mystery. So the Dimensions of Mystery is like poetry and prose about nature. And basically, if one doesn't have an alignment with nature, one has no capacity to realize that he's giving all the codes for how to build the levitating craft. And as Ralph always said, by the time someone builds the levitating craft, they realize they don't need the levitating craft, because our bodies and the Earth's body and the levitating craft are all based on the exact same structures and principles of design, creation, and nature, such that we find that 0 point back inside of ourselves. So what I'm saying with all of this is that as we come back into balance with nature, which can seem really boring to the ego, that's all jacked up on nonsense.
Yeah, it's dense. We'll get to this in a second.
Yeah, it's all the ego is all based on nonsense, and because the ego is not connected to source itself, people will never find happiness or bliss when they are ego driven. And the cool thing, as we start to dismantle ourselves from the ego, is we realize that we are bringing ourselves back into alignment with the cosmos itself. And when we come into alignment with the cosmos, our potential is beyond what the dualistic mind can imagine. And this is where things start to get really cool and fun.
Yeah. So, nonsense, right? The ego and the current state of the perpetual consume, destroy, reproduce mentality, right? That's spinning out of control, but we're reeling it back in, right? Nonsense, because it's not tapped into the feelings. It's not tapped into the sense, right? The sense is the presence. So
The
in that,
nonsense
and
is
so the
no
nonsense,
sense.
so the nonsense is extremely dense. We know this because we build heavy cars, military things that are just, right? It's heavy energy, death, war, all that stuff is heavy, 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 right? So all this, like the egotistical, the ego is very heavy, right? Because it keeps us perpetuating living in the past or living in anxiety of the future instead of living in the present, which is light, right? It's the balance between the two. So I don't know how long this will take, timeline-wise, because it's infinite. But that's the moves that we're moving out of the density. So reality, as we know it here in this, nonsensical place, is that right here we are tapped into our cell phones and on the computers, which, right, and this is part of what the all-sphere is, of like liberating and tapping your hands back up into the celestial energy to balance these pentagons to your feet pentagons. That's the terrestrial, these are the celestial light dense. So,
the all-sphere.
The little all-spheres.
If this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. So
we're on cell phones and doing all these things where literally our consciousness, our senses, are going downward towards the density, which is the earth, and into these devices, which are these basically black hole vortexes of consciousness suckers, right? Keeping us...
Crypto and Bitcoin.
Keeping us out of, all of this, right? And into this. Computers, the same thing. So as we were explaining, like the meridian lines and the chi of the body, so you have all this energy of your hands, right? This is how you make stuff, create, right? That's the superpowers. That's using your consciousness, your heart, hands to wield and create magical, awesome things. If it's down here in your root chakra, we're basically feeding the primordial, consume, destroy, reproductive energy that is the root chakra, which is this heavy masculine energy, which is spiraling us out. It's slavery. It truly is the enslavement. Where are slaves' hands? They're down here at the root chakra, right? Humans are the only creature on the planet, whether they have arms or not, that have their hands down here, down in the root chakra. Every animal is either up here, it's flying, it's swooping in. A snake even perches up, right? So it's just showing that the connection is above the heart, which is where it's the light. So as we move from the place of the primordial energy, open up the heart and become more activated with these babies, then that's how we start to access the light, right? I very much am well aware that humans actually used to be angels, right? And the fall of the angelic realm of humans, right, we went back to the density. So powers that be of things have our consciousness going from here to the devices where you basically grow up and then you die, right? So it's always being focused and keeping our energy field down here where we just curl back up. Where when you open this stuff up and open up to this light, that's how eventually we will tap into teleportation, levitation, and flying, right? So when I had first figured that out, where like literally if you put your hands up like this, and I went on the 2-hour hike, I think I shared this on the last one, 2 hours hiking with my hands above my head. That night I was lucid flying at a temple. Exactly, the chi in my hands was activated and flying around. I've done this many, many times, and I get better and better as in the dream, and then it's like, oh yeah, I've done this before, right, and fly around. So now speeding up to Friday night, I was down at the Natural Products Expo at Expo West in Anaheim here, and it's a very loud, so like it's in like a hotel, right, and part of it's in like a lobby, and there's so much like loud humans, and I'm like, I live in nature, I love the silence of nature, and I'm in this very just like, one room was music, and I saw some amazing friends, and I'm basically getting ready to leave, and I pick up this energy field in that space, even amongst all this like chaotic energy, and then I'm like, that woman, right? And I kind of just like caught a glimpse of her. I didn't get like a good view, and then she goes and sits down, and I'm like doing my thing, and she's doing her thing, and we keep like energetically, we're like 25, 30 feet apart, but we're like sensing each other out, right? And then I have to leave with my friends, and I literally just walk over to her, ask for her hand, like just hold my hand out. She gives me her hand. I just pick it up and give her just the softest, sweetest kiss, and it's instantly like the divine reflection of like the highest, awesomest goodness of this beautiful Russian woman. And for the next 10 minutes, we're just like, this far apart, just in bliss the whole time, laughing, giggling, sharing just exquisite stories in the most profound way. And, sharing I don't know how many times I held her hand and even just took her hand up and smelled her hand and just breathed in her essence and her superpowers. And then, got her number and went on the way. So that was just, the highlight of the whole experience. And that's why I went ultimately to this thing. I was guided, right, to go to this thing. Even at first, I'm like, I don't want to drive for 2 hours. But Spirit's like, no, you're going. So go, meet her, and then go home. And then that night, it was probably like 6:30, 7 in the morning, I have the best of like lucid flying experience where whatever her codes, right? Because when you touch someone or you're in someone's field that's at a certain frequency, you're picking up energies and transmissions and things. So here in this dream, it was no longer like, I was being taken to the next level of how to fly. And that went from like, right, putting the hands out and like flying like this to basically taking like chi and doing like, so it's like, right, move your hands out like this and looping energy around. And that's how I could speed up flying. That's how I could take sharp turns. So I'm like flying high speed, doing all this stuff and getting faster and faster and better, and got to this place where I was literally just like floating in lotus and just doing these hand movements and just like propelling around all over the place. And then I was going so fast that my consciousness and the awareness of space couldn't keep up. And then I was just like, okay, that's like fast enough. And I instantly stop and I go and go into prayer mode, take a deep breath, and then I woke up. And that was it. And that was my boom. So of course then I called her and let her know, and she giggled and blissed out. And
blissed in.
Yeah, so for me, right, it's I understand that the more nature we have around us, the bigger trees that we have around us, that is the Earth's electromagnetic field becoming stronger and stronger and stronger, which ultimately gives us the ability to then, right, through our meditation and our connection to our field of energy, which is its own separate yet connected energy field, which is how we'll get back to the place of levitation, flying, and these higher, lighter technologies that we will ultimately have access to. But it takes the consciousness of, humanity to wake up, to get back to out of the density, back into this open, lighter, connected web of energy with everyone and everything. And that's how we'll start flying. And I also believe there will be technologies and things that will assist us along this way. It's part of this evolution and technology. That's part of it. But, right, it's holding the vision and holding the dream alive. Just like all of the dreams that are good of, right, the earth fully being restored and just like the rainforest thriving, the redwoods are growing and expanding, and more and more and more nature, more new animal breeds are coming, like all this good stuff. These roadways, they're ultimately going to grow over with plants, and then we're going to have these amazing grass roadways that we'll be able to hover on and fly through. Imagine going through like now forests that have like, old pavement, but you're like tapping, because the earth is going to take it all back anyways. So we're just getting on the tip with her to like access all this stuff. So it's going to keep getting better and better,
Epic dream. So many activations. When Skyhorse shared this dream with me the other day on the phone, I was like, oh, we definitely have to share this on the love stream, because when someone is having authentic experiences like that and shares them, articulates them, everybody gets the activation. And this is going to start happening more and more and more, where, as you said, we come into each other's field. We're receiving each other's codes of excellence. And so it starts accelerating everything right now. And the children that are coming in right now are already in this very monadic consciousness, which is accessing much higher wisdom of our body. I'm keeping my hands up and I'm enjoying the activation that I'm feeling. So I really invite everyone to. It was so interesting what you said about animals' hands being, humans' hands being down there and animals' hands.
Yeah, and if you look at trees and plants, right, it's like this. You're going up. Sure, there's like droopy, weeping willows and stuff like that, but you can just do this easy test of just like putting your hand up like this. Feel your hand, right? And then put your wrist out and feel the energy difference between this and this. This is like alive light. This is dense. In ancient Egypt, right? It's like walk like an Egyptian, right? You're tapping into the earth energy, you're tapping into the celestial energy, and that's the balance and the harnessing as above, so below. It's the circle, the cycle, the cyclical awesomeness of life.
It's so incredible. I'm feeling like super elevated just doing this with my hands. I just have to check because we're going to our despacho with our shaman momentarily. It's 5:57. So beautiful sky horses traveled all this way to sit on these princess line ley lines and do this communication and sharing and love stream. So maybe after our despacho, we can jump back in because there's so much more to share. What do you think?
Yeah.
If this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. Remember, sharing is caring. And let's keep sharing these podcasts together because we're doing them directly from our heart. And it is the miracle coordinate for all of us to step forth and share the wisdom that is coming through us and flood these technology airways with inner wisdom and love. And that's really what dissolves these technologies, which many of us are in such telepathic and synchronistic, the structures of nature now that is informing us into synchronicity and so much more. And we are flooding these airways with love and peace and superabundance, which is taking the middleman out between us and source, our supranatural capacities, our capacities to be aligned with nature, to be aligned with love, to experience what we really came here for, which is to activate these physical vessels. As Bob Marley said, preach man, don't tell me that heaven is under the earth. And I love hanging out with Skyhorse because he has so many of the activation codes for what this technology really is worth. Priceless.
I got one more little nugget for everybody. For you, right? For your awareness is to tap. Do tapping because tapping makes vibrations on your physical body, and you're using the chi. You can use your feet. Tap your heels on parts. I've learned even the Dorothy, Wizard of Oz, tapping your heels. If you tap your heels 3 times, you get present. I've tried this and it's worked. So if you're spinning in your head, just stand and be like dit dit dit. It's the souls, right? There's a reason they're called the souls, right? You can tap into your soul.
This is so cool because I keep sharing with everyone recently that over and over the guidance keeps coming through and saying you're not in Kansas anymore.
There it is.
We are tapping into our inner technology. Super exciting and fun. The tapping here, the high heart is right here that connects the brain and the heart. It's like the 8th chakra. And this is an area in all natural medicines where doctors tap to reset the system. So if you feel like you need a realignment, if you're stressed out, just, as Skyhorse said, just tap right here, right now.
This information is so easily accessible all over the internet now of, the EFT, right? It's the tapping. So you've got the tapping points. What else was I just thinking? It's just streaming through. Yeah, we'll see. And maybe save that for later tonight.
Yay. The kisses love this gathering. If this love stream is inspiring, please share it. That's called gifting. And how do people find you?
I'll put it in the comments, okay. But ultimately on Instagram, Nathan Skyhorse, or the Allsphere, TheAllSphyr.
Yay! And I also have Unity Transmissions on YouTube, Unity Transmissions on Instagram, Unity Grace Bliss on Insta and Facebook. book or Meta or whatever it is, we're just so joyous to have these communication systems to connect. Keep your hands above your head for as long as you can.
Just wait until later. Now we're going to have to go to this amazing activation, and then we're going to come back even more activated.
We're jumping into the despacho now with our Kiro elder Pablo from Peru and Ronnie, the host and guide. And thank you for tuning in. We love we so much.
See you soon.
Mwah. Aloha.
Aloha.
Mwah. Oh my gosh, those little shorts are really good too.
Totally.
Like, just
it keeps them like,
the more we do, it's awesome.
The little nugget that came through at the end.
Yeah.
There's another one. I gotta just, it'll come through again.
Oh, you can't remember what it is?
I mean, it had something similar to do with the tapping, but it's something else.
Oops. Okay. And can I just maybe put the computer on here for the despacho? Oops, we're still recording. Oh well.